Washington offers a block. The blitz comes from the other side. Jaquel Jackson.
And now again, Jaquel Jackson.
You're listening to Bleav in Colts with co-hosts Lawrence Owen and Jaquel Jackson, bringing you the latest and greatest about the shoe.
Brady, middle, intercepted by Jaquel Jackson. Play fake, Bryant, intercepted, picked off at the 5, touchdown Jaquel Jackson.
What's going on, Colts Nation? I'm Lawrence Owen, back with Jaquel Jackson to talk about the Indianapolis Colts and the NFL. How have you been this week, Jaquel?
Yeah, been good. Been good. You know, it was a football game on this past weekend that everyone's up in arms about. I watched a little bit of it, but it was good to see a former Terp have a moment with his brother, Stephon Diggs, and Trayvon Diggs. So it was great to see them have fun, bring their family out and friends, and enjoy what the Pro Bowl should be all about. Is a time to spend with obviously your teammates and your opponents that you played against all year long, but more so it's a chance for you to have fun and spend time with your family and enjoy being at the Pro Bowl, you know?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people, watching that. I missed the Pro Bowl personally because I was doing a different professional business at the time. So I didn't actually get to see it. But at the same time, a lot of, like you said, a lot of people up in arms over it. We'll get into that a little bit more here after a bit. But right now, guys, I'm telling you, the Super Bowl, it's coming up, right? And as always, BetOnline has you covered from odds, scores, totals, players, performance, props to where the next fired coach is going to land. BetOnline is the number one spot for all things NFL betting in 2022. And it's not just football. BetOnline's basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC odds coverage is the best in the business. From sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, BetOnline is your number one online wagering destination. Just head on over to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to sign up and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code BLEAV, that's BLEAV, to get you started. The fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts. Now, let's talk about that Pro Bowl because everybody's up in arms because they're like, this ain't even a game. No one's hitting. But as a player, first off, as a fan, you don't want your favorite player to get hurt because these are your favorite players out there. You voted for them to go out here and make this, right? This is an honor for them to be out there because, they're everybody voted for him, including fans. You don't want to see him get hurt and then have to spend all the offseason not just relaxing and working on themselves, but working on coming back from an injury, right?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. As a player and as a former player who played in that game, my main concern was making it out injury-free. And I think the Pro Bowl has kind of turned into this interaction between fans and players leading up to the game. I think the game is just obviously for people who can't afford to be there and be in person and have a good time and spend time with the players. Listen, these players aren't risking their bodies to go out here and play a meaningful game, a game in a sense where it's not meaningful. You're not in the playoffs. You have guys like Kansas that play for Kansas City who are fresh off of a very long season, 2 years in a row where last year they were in the Super Bowl. This year they made it up to the AFC Championship game. Those guys need a break. And listen, I get it. I get the fans' frustration, but from a player standpoint, every situation is different from a contractual standpoint. Some guys may be okay. Some guys who made the Pro Bowl, they made a guy, let's say, for instance, Odell Beckham. I know he's playing in the Super Bowl, but let's say a guy like him who was on a one-year deal, who's a star-studded box office player, he goes to the Pro Bowl and he gets injured. And now you have a trickle effect of players saying, you know what, I'm not going to come. Because the purpose of the Pro Bowl is to have all your top players who your fans voted for to see in person, playing together, played alongside each other. And quite frankly, if there was a scare, that guys were getting injured, I can tell you right now, from the PA standpoint, from the player standpoint, you wouldn't see the top vote getters playing in this game due to the fact that they could potentially get injured. So obviously, I watched a little bit of the game. I know you were working. I watched a little bit of it. I didn't realize they weren't tackling anymore. I know in 2015, at least we were able to take guys to the ground, but it was a mutual, understanding that if you were carrying the ball, you were going to go down. But it is what it is. I think for the player standpoint, it's a way to interact with the fans, and then the game is just like, hey, let's just have fun. Let's get out of here, injury free, and let's move on. So, the fact, and it's fair to say it's not a game. Well, it's not. Maybe you take the pads off and make it a flag football game, because you'll probably get more intensity at a flag football game than you will as opposed to everyone having on their pads. So it's going to be a debate every year.
So, like I said, I didn't get to watch the game, but I did see some videos about it, people reacting to the game. And there's this really pretty famous podcaster out there that you used to be teammates with. Maybe you heard of him, Patty Mac, right? Pat McAfee.
Yeah, I know him well.
he was talking about, there's a couple things that he talked about I wanted to discuss with you from your point of view as a former player. First off, during the game, he was talking about, you don't go full tilt, not even close to full tilt. You notice they ain't even bringing people to the ground anymore. But he talked about how Micah Parsons, the rookie linebacker,
oh my gosh,
was going full tilt.
Yes.
And it really ticked off the other team. Like Ryan Kelly apparently went off and started, having words with him. Right. If something like that was happening and you were out there, what would you say to him when he's out there just going full tilt like that?
You can't say anything to him. He's a rookie. That's the speed he decides to move at. Then someone has to stop him, put him in his place. But you always have guys like that just only know one speed, and that's partly why he's been so great. He had such a great rookie season. So it was his first time out. Let's see. He seems like a guy, if he could stay injury free and still be able to produce numbers the way he did for Dallas, he'll be in that game a lot, plenty times in the future here, and I'm sure he'll dial it down. But if I were out there, there's nothing you could say to him. You can mention to him, hey man, slow down. No one else is going that fast. We don't want to get anyone injured. But he's young. He's 22. He's a rookie. He didn't know any better. But you always have guys. That reminds me years ago, and I've seen videos, people posting about it, of the late great Sean Taylor. Mm-hmm. The intensity that he played the game at one speed, whether it was the regular season, postseason, or the Pro Bowl. And the famous, video of him decleating the punter was just legendary. But a lot of people don't bring that type of intensity. And it depends on the era you are. Back in the old days, back 10, 15 years ago, they were playing hard, and it was enjoyable. But, guys are worth just as much off the field as they are on the field, and they're protecting their brand in a sense. I know it doesn't sound, it doesn't sound, this is the climate that we have to operate in terms of professional athletes. They have a lot to lose, and this is one game they're not trying to lose anything. They're trying to gain the fan interaction and hang out and enjoy your family and friends. And the last thing you're thinking about is going out to play a competitive game.
What's going on, everybody? This episode is brought to you by Ultra Game. Ultra Game is officially licensed by the NFL. Ultra Game NFL is a reintroduction to the classic NFL fan gear, boasting innovative design and fabric updates for the fresh fits for today's stadium goers that appeal to everyone. And if you use the link in the description right now, you get this great Ultra Game NFL Men's Sherpa lined full fleece hoodie sweatshirt. That's right. And this full soft fleece hoodie with Sherpa polyester lining ensures comfort and warmth in the cold weather. Length and fits as perfect as a layering piece for any physical activity. Just make sure you use the link in the description That way you could get your Ultra Game Men's Sherpa full-lined zip fleece hoodie sweatshirt at a discounted price. Let's get back to the video. See, I kind of look at that, and from an everyday person standpoint, the guy who goes, and has a 9-to-5 job, goes out and works all the time. I kind of see this as like you're going out there, you're working, and a new guy comes in, right? And you're like you've been at this plant or whatnot for like 10, 15 years, and this new kid is just coming in, he's just working his tail off, busting butt, and all the veterans are like, whoa, slow down, dude. You're gonna make things look bad. You're gonna end up hurting people because we're not going at that speed. You don't need to go at that speed, right? So yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah, hopefully he's, I don't know him personally. I don't know anyone that knows Michael Parsons, but maybe he's that way in walkthroughs in the middle of a season. You're walking through and he's the guy that's going, that can't control his tempo, but he either better be great at it or I don't know. It was his first one. He had nerves. I remember my first one. I didn't know the tempo and no one would kind of tell me. You just had to fill it out as you played. And quickly you realize the O-line isn't, trying to rip your head off or anything like that. So you can keep a nice little tempo about yourself and come out of the game injury-free and have fun doing it. There's a lot of talking going on and a lot of, like we saw Stephon Diggs playing DB against his brother, who's the DB, who was playing receiver. So you see a lot of that, and it's a fun time. It's a fun time, and unfortunately, they can't satisfy the fans in this regard of them, playing full tilt, which I don't think is ever going to happen.
There was a guy on the opposite side of the ball that likes to play full tilt as well, that represented the horseshoe. A few of them, actually. We already talked about Ryan Kelly, Quentin Nelson, Jonathan Taylor was over there as well. He's a full tilt guy as well. Right. I'm wondering if Kelly, Nelson, and Taylor were ever on the field at the same time when Micah was out there, and they were like, all right, guys, we're going to run it directly at Micah. And go and let's put him on his butt to show him what we're talking about here.
Right,
but slow down, guy.
Yeah. Like if he disrupts the game, then you can't throw the ball down the field to sack every play. And who wants to watch that? People want to see the ball thrown down the field, interceptions. That's all the game is about. Just airing it out, jump balls. You may throw to a running back down the field or a defensive guy that's playing offense now. That's what it's about. You try to entertain the best way you can, but it's hard to argue that point, right? For the regular 9-to-5 fan who wants to see another game. I get it. Listen, that's why they added one more game, because fans can't get enough of it. But from a player standpoint, it's all about perseverance. It's all about preserving at that point, especially when you're not playing any more organized football until May and the off season and all that. But again, the players get a lot out of it. I'm telling you, man, it's a great week of just being around all the greatest players to play, older players coming to town. So for me, I was getting so many autographs and shaking hands and exchanging phone numbers. You rarely get that. You rarely get that throughout the course of a year. So from a player's perspective, you go there to meet other people and just have a good time. It's a vacation, but you're playing your respective sport, and in the end, it's about the family too. It's about the family that came to see you play and all that good stuff, and it's a really fun time.
Yeah. The other point that Pat McAfee brought up, I wanted to bring this up with you because, again, it's something, I want another player's perspective on this. He said he'd like to see it changed at the time that they play it, more similar to the all-star games of like the NHL, the NBA, and, the baseball, where it's more mid-season, where, you have a kind of your all-star break mid-season, and then you have that game there. It's more of a promotion thing for the NFL itself to keep people involved and maybe bring ratings up a little bit more mid-season.
Right. Yeah, it's an idea. However, I don't think. I mean, if they can pull it off, I Bleav the NFL would try to do it for that standpoint. But I think it's for mid-season with the NFL, where right now we have Thursday night games, we have Saturday night games, we have Monday night games, Sunday night games. To try to figure out a schedule, and I want to play devil's advocate, to try to figure out a schedule to play this game mid-season. Can it be done? Yes. Do I think it protects the players? Heck no, because that's one more game. You think the game isn't played with intensity now. What do you think is going to happen if we decide to move this game to mid-season? No one's going to show up. And if it's me, if I'm on a team that's contending to go, and that's going to be in the playoffs and potentially play for a Super Bowl, hell, I'm thinking about, again, I probably won't show up. I'll probably use that time. Does the rest of the league get off during that time? I'll take that time to go vacation or kick my feet up and recharge my batteries. But it's a good point by Pat. I mean, to try to shake things up, I think it's a good point. But however, I think it's a long shot. I don't think guys would agree to do it.
That's a situation where I'm looking at it. I'm like, well, how would you deal with the bye weeks? Are you just going to make that as the bye week for every single team in the NFL? Right. And say, okay, everybody's got an equal bye week right middle of the year, or are you going to add that to the already established bye weeks that they already have, just to make sure that everybody has that going on? I don't know.
There's so many levels to it, because if you're in the Pro Bowl now, a team is still probably game planning, and they need all their guys. I mean, it's so many levels to it. I like that idea of it, but I don't think you can force these guys to play full tilt. That's what it boils down to. That's what fans are mostly complaining about, and some former players are too, about the intensity of the game. Do I think they should make it more competitive? Absolutely. Everyone wants to see him play a competitive game, but the time I did tune in, I mean, they weren't tackling, for Christ's sake. They were barely, they were playing two-hand touch. So take the pads off. Put some flags on them, possibly, and I promise you'll have a more competitive game. But then the O-line and D-line are out of the equation. What do they do? So right. I don't think I think this is pretty much set in stone unless they decide not to play a game, which no one wants that, because everyone wants to watch football right after the conference championships and the Super Bowl. So I think it's in a good place, to be honest with you. I really do.
So the players do not play full tilt on the Pro Bowl because they're protecting themselves. Those of you watching and listening right now, you need to protect yourselves when you are online. What's more important than peace of mind? Nothing. And that's what NordVPN is here for, to give you peace of mind while you're online. And with all the threats that you face today on the internet, it's more important than ever to be sure that you have the best VPN you can get. NordVPN is the world's best VPN service, offering the fastest connectivity, the most servers, the next-gen encryption, to make sure that everything you do online stays secure. Plus, you can use the NordVPN on all your computers and devices, no matter the operating system. With NordVPN's unlimited bandwidth, you'll never have to worry about slow connection. And plans start so low that it's cheaper than buying a cup of coffee. It's less than $4 a month. So grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/Bleav or use the code Bleav, that's BLEAV, to get up to 70% off your NordVPN plan, plus one additional month for free. Hey, it's risk-free as well, because they have a 30-day money-back guarantee. There you go. All right. Now, let's get into the next spot. All right. Yeah. But let's talk about this DC hire that kind of, wow. Personally, I had someone else in mind, but this guy right here was actually my number two, you know, because he's got experience, and he's got some massive experience at the defensive coordinator position. Gus Bradley. What are your thoughts on this hire?
I love the hire. I really do. Gus Bradley is a guy. Let me back up. What Eberflus was able to create from a fundamental standpoint, the principles of playing the game the right way defensively, I thought he did a masterful job. all the intangible things that this defense was able to accomplish last year, turning the ball over at a high clip and running to the football. He had a huge emphasis on that. I think it was knowing those things as a GM and as a head coach, you had to bring in someone that had, in Gus Bradley's case, since 2009, he's either been a head coach or a DC. And so he's a guy we're all familiar with his defense in Seattle, 2012, 2013, where he literally had the best defense in football. And he's carried that with him along the way. And I think it's a great hire because he's a guy who understands, because of how this defense played last year, they played a lot of zone match coverage. What Gus Bradley brings is just that. 3 buzz, you're going to hear a lot of cover 3. Everyone talks about the cover 3 and how he was able to manipulate that coverage years ago. And I remember being in Indy at the time, we called it 3 buzz. It's a based on your formations, based on routes behind you, it can become either a traditional cover 3 where everyone is dropping in their zones, or it becomes a match zone coverage based on formation, pre-snap formation, based on routes after the snap. So I think it's a great hire from the standpoint of he has instant credibility in that room. Again, he's been a head coach, defensive coordinator. This is as good as you can get. From what Eberflus left behind, you have guys at the Pro Bowl. You have guys on a D-line standpoint who's a Pro Bowler, DeForest Buckner. You have Darius Leonard, the second level of your defense, who's a Pro Bowler, and you have Kenny Moore, the second, third level, that's a Pro Bowler. So this was a sought-after position, in my opinion, for any defensive coordinator to come in and take over a team that has Pro Bowlers at each level. They're fairly young, but they can get better with passing, rushing the pass, and so forth. So I thought it was a great hire in that sense.
This channel is proudly sponsored by the Backroom Collection. They do beautiful sports canvas art with football, basketball, baseball, and other sports themes. Special orders are accepted and autograph pieces are available. Many Indianapolis Colts signed pieces will be available beginning in November. Just use your discount code CL10 to purchase the pieces you want to spice up your living area. That's CL10. Hey Colts fans, thanks for watching DeQuell and I here on Bleav in Colts. While you're at this, please take a moment to smash the like button, hit subscribe if you're not subscribed, tag that notification bell so that you are notified next time we upload a video or go live, so that you can join in the conversation. Don't forget, you can share this stream. That would help us out a ton. If you enjoy this, share it. All you got to do is go right over here and click the share button, little red share button down here underneath, and share it to your favorite social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever, doesn't matter. Thank you so much. On behalf of myself and DeQuell Jackson, have a good one. Enjoy the rest of the show. Oh, man, Gus Bradley. I'll tell you what. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack with this hire. First off, he had an interview right after he got hired, right, with Colts.com. And and he talked about, look, he loved what Eberflus brought. He teaches the same thing, that whole intensity and the no loafing thing, stuff like that. But he also said, sometimes you got to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to facing offenses. You need to be 2 or 3 years ahead of what the offenses are going to be. And I love that. That he said, you got to be ahead of them. And no matter where he's been at, he knows how to bring the pressure, right? He's been a DC in 3 different places. 3 different places. Now I'm gonna read some stats here, and it's just gonna be mind-boggling.
Okay.
His first DC position, obviously, was with the Seattle Seahawks, right? But the year before he got there, they were 25th in the NFL in points allowed at 24.5 points, and 30th in yards at 378th. He got them to 306 yards per game, which was 4th in the NFL. And as you mentioned earlier, got him to only 15.3 points per game allowed, which was the best in the NFL.
Yeah, I was going to say that has to be the best.
Best in the NFL. The next time he became a DC, because we're not even gonna talk about his stint as a head coach with the Jacksonville.
Yeah,
first off, he was a head coach, which is
Right.
a completely different position. Plus, if Jaguars fans listen to this, I'm sorry, but I mean, you are what you are. And he was good enough to beat us the last game of the season and take us out of the the playoffs, though. So I'll give you that much. But then he went to the Chargers as a DC. And the year before he was hired, they were 29th in the NFL in points per game allowed at 26.4. And they gave up 347 yards per game.
Mm-hmm.
He got the Chargers to giving up only 21.6 points per game. Now, that's not amazing. It's not like top 5, but
it's improvement.
That's still almost, what was that, 5 points improvement?
Mm-hmm.
And he only gave up, and at that same time, they only gave up 313 yards per game, which was 6th best in the NFL for that team. Right.
Very important. Right.
So massive improvement on across the board at the Chargers. Now, last year, the Raiders had him.
Mm-hmm.
And the year before he took over, they were 30th in the NFL in points per game, which was 29.9. And 25th in the NFL in yards given up at 389 yards. They were awful across the board defensively.
Pretty much.
In 1 year, that 1 year that he played with them, he dropped the points per game down by 4 solid points.
Mm-hmm.
And yardage-wise, more than 50 yards a game, 337, which got him to the top half of the NFL. In just a single year, you saw massive improvement across the board. And then, of course, the reason he's still not with the Raiders is because of, the termination of the head coach and all that. And they had to go get a new head coach. So the whole system got changed up. And he was a free agent coach sitting out there. Right. And he was, I'm telling you, he
wasn't going to last long.
No, he was highly sought after.
Right.
And the Colts had a highly sought after defense to be coached because of what you talked about. It just felt like it was something that was just mutual, like two sought after situations coming together. Yeah. And personally, I think this might have been the best move the Colts could have done.
No doubt.
Because with you could legitimately see the Colts defense becoming top 10 again straight through in the next coming seasons.
And I'll add this. I think this is probably, aside from his stint with the Chargers, with Bosa and Chris Harris and those guys, this could arguably be his best roster thus far that he's had since he left Seattle. And he talked about it on his presser soon after he got the job, was, having Pro Bowl guys at each level of the defense. What that means from a coach, from a player standpoint, is leadership. The guys who make the most plays in the locker room, they inherently become your leaders. And these 3 guys, DeForest Buckner, consummate leader, he's everything the Colts want out of their players. And Darius Leonard, same, you could say the same about him. Kenny Moore II, who doesn't love Kenny Moore and how he plays the game? So this was a defense that I think he's going to take to that next level, as you alluded to, and just mentioning his previous stints and him being a defensive coordinator. But I'll say this, because of the success Flus had with this defense and the imprint that he was able to leave here, don't be surprised if Gus Bradley not only makes this defense better, but this props him to becoming another head coach in this league. I think this was one of those positions where you bring a guy in, and if you do well here, if you can improve on an already solid defense, there's a good chance you're going to leave this position and become a head coach someplace. Listen, Flus did it. So again, I love what Gus Bradley brings. He brings that combination scheme of a 4-3 mixed with a 3-4. He allows his guys to get in wide nines and rush the passer. You look at how he improved Yannick Ngakoue. He's a Maryland guy. He was brought over, and he led the Las Vegas Raiders in sacks. So he understands defenses. I believe I've never met Gus Bradley, but we could probably all agree he's a really great communicator, because if you're not, and guys don't want to play for you, your defense will reflect that. And I think that's, just listening to him talk about being in the building, meeting Frank Wright, and just being a part of this the Colts culture, I think will bode well with him, and the players will see that from the very beginning.
See, there's going to be a lot of people out there that's going to look at this and go, oh no, it's another zone scheme kind of thing going on. And there's a lot of different wrinkles in schemes,
Right.
whether, and here's the thing. The one thing that a lot of people complained about, including you and I, about Matt Eberflus's was he was more of a reactive type coach, right? Where you set your guys back, you pay attention, and you react to whatever happens. Whereas, and that ends up, unless you have premier pass rushers, you end up giving up yardage, right? You get turnovers, but you end up giving up a lot of yardage.
Right.
Gus is more of a proactive guy, from what I can tell, where he will be very aggressive with his play calling. Even though it is a zone scheme type thing, he's going to try to manipulate to get to the pass, to get pass rush. He's going to manipulate to even though they're in a zone, to be more of that, man kind of scheme, even though you're in a zone that you had talked about earlier in the podcast that I see, where if they come through, you immediately take them and kind of follow them while you're in your zone, and then, hand off as they go into someone else's zone, which I like a lot more than what I saw for the most part of what Matt Eberflus had. So I think fans will like this a lot more.
Yeah.
And if you pay attention, you may not realize it unless you look at film, but the proactive is much different than a reactive type zone scheme.
Yeah. And Gus Bradley, he mentioned what makes him so unique, I Bleav, is he really identifies with the talent that he has. In Seattle, he was able to rush 4 and play a 3-buzz coverage on the back end, because he had ball hawks on the back end, he had enforcers on the back end, and you had diggity dogs on as your front 4 rushing the passer. So he allowed them to be successful based on their skill set. And I think that's what he will bring to this team, and particularly Darius Leonard. I'm biased to play linebacker position, and anytime you bring in a new coordinator, the linebackers are really, it affects you. It affects whether will he be a guy that's going to completely change his game, because he's proven that he can rush. He's a great pass rusher. So I would assume Gus Bradley already has his mindset of this idea that, hey, he's going to be my rushing linebacker, but he also can cover. So, and we watched the little bit of the Pro Bowl we did watch. Guess who had a pick 6? Darius Leonard.
Right.
He's a ball hawk. So he's going to find ways to put him in position to be successful. And don't be surprised if we see guys like Kwity Paye and some other guys really flourish, because Gus Bradley is going to hone in on what these guys do best from an individual standpoint and collectively figure it all out. And to your point about him being proactive, that's what proactive means. I'm not going to sit back and just run my defense, no matter who is my Leo, or who's my linebacker, or who's my safety. No, I'm going to call plays, and I'm going to adjust my scheme based on the personnel that you have. And that's partly why he's been so successful.
Yeah, and that's another thing. If you look at individual players on the teams, just look at last year, right? When he was with the Raiders. Max Crosby's been around a while.
Right.
But his name popped this year, right?
Right.
While under Gus Bradley. I mean, he was in the backfield all the time.
Yeah.
Now, if he could do something like that with a Paye or a Toure or something like that, on the edge, that would be absolutely fantastic. He talked about in his presser how he loves on the film that he sees that the Colts have really, really good linebackers for pass rushing, like what you was just talking about.
Right.
Last year, Darius Leonard did not get a single sack. Not a single sack. Yeah. He wasn't blitzing that much. Matt Eberflus didn't blitz that much with the linebackers.
And he's really good at doing that.
Yeah. So I expect to see a lot more of that under Gus Bradley. And this is why I absolutely love this hire, because this is going to be a more I think it's going to be a more aggressive style of
I
defense.
think so.
And again, he's going to. I think he also, from what I could tell, watching the games, the Raiders game, he schemes versus teams, right?
Right.
And that's what I like a lot as well. It's not just, well, I'm going to play, my style of game.
Right.
And that is that. Gus is a guy who's going to look at the other team, look at his guys and go, what's the best way I could do to get my guys in a position to make plays against the people that we're playing against, not just in general.
Right. And I think he understands like there's multiple ways of getting after the passer. If again, you go back to Seattle and some of the things that he's done in the past, he's always had a pretty decent front four that can rush the passer. And he talked about in his presser just a touch, but winning and getting after the passer in multiple ways, either by 4-down lineman or bringing an extra guy or finding out who's that guy. Kenny Moore is a great blitz off the edge, and which is rare. But I think in all, Gus Bradley hit the trifecta. It was a really, really good defense, young defense that Matt Eberflus did a great job into identifying. So what Gus Bradley doesn't have to do is harp on the fundamentals. Is when I'm talking fundamentals, I'm talking about running to the football, the intangible things, stripping the ball, or the ball is what we want. He doesn't have to. Obviously, he has to keep that momentum going, but he is a lot ahead of the game with this defense as opposed to going anywhere else, in my opinion. And I think he's going to do a great job. And I feel like a lot of fans don't really truly understand just how good this Gus Bradley is. And I'll add another layer to this. He's going to be able to generate some really good assistant coaches. And with his credibility, with his success throughout the National Football League, he's going to bring in, give him some time. There's a rumor mill going out of different guys or what have you, but these guys that he brings in are going to be guys we're very familiar with and or have been proven in this league on a year in and year out basis.
One thing I do want to bring up, we talked about, stars at each level. When he was in Seattle, that first year, he had 2 young safeties, right? He had an enforcer at the strong safety position. And when I say that was his nickname, the enforcer, right? and then he had that playmaking free safety, right? And that really solidified that defense, right?
Right.
The Colts have a very similar setup now. Kari Willis is that box enforcer type safety. Right. And if Blackman can stay healthy, he's proven that he's got that ability to be that sideline to sideline playmaking free safety, in my opinion. So keep an eye on that, because I think Gus Bradley can bring out the best in both of those guys.
Yeah, no doubt. I think secondary is definitely his calling card, because the defense that he created that everyone tried to duplicate throughout the National Football League, he's one of those guys. There aren't many guys that when you play in the league that there's a defense created from this guy that's still coaching currently. And Gus Bradley is one of those guys. Every team in the National Football League that runs defense has a variation of what he did in Seattle. And he's the guy who created this buzz concept. For him, I think it's going to be important to trust the guys that we have in the building. Maybe you make a splash in the draft to add depth, but he's going to make sure. I'm going to be interested to see who he brings in as a DB coach, because that is going to be very vital to this team's success, as it was last year, with Xavier Rhodes being up and down, not fully being healthy, playing musical chairs from a cornerback standpoint, not having your 11 show up week in and week out that's available for you. So I think in that regard, we should see improvement. And I'm very excited about this hire. This is a really quality hire that he kind of fell under the radar a bit, Gus Bradley. And I'm glad he chose the Colts, because I feel like this team will have a new identity. This team will not have that identity that you and I would get frustrated with last year, just sitting back and bend, don't break type of mentality. I think this guy's going to bring in a different attitude, different swagger. that we're going to go out and play the game that we play, and we're going to impose our will on you, as opposed to being reactionary and taking the left hook and then figuring out a counter. No, we're going to come out punching, and I think that's what he's going to bring definitely to this unit for sure.
You know, you talk about the secondary hire and with the coach, and you know, I talked about I thought our best position coach was our cornerbacks coach, right? And of course, he got taken.
Chicago.
Fully expected that to happen. In my opinion, you know, I saw a lot of improvement in the we all saw a lot of improvement in our secondary this year. But the thing that we need the most, in my opinion, is that D-line improvement, right?
No doubt.
And that's the guy I am waiting to see who he gets, that defensive line coach, someone who's going to be able to coach up and bring the best out of these guys, especially our defensive ends, our edge pass rushers. That's such an important position.
Really
and we did not get what we needed as a team. And no offense to the players, but as a team, we didn't get what we needed from them at that point. And I put that more on the defensive line coach personally, because, you know, we've already, that's not here now.
And I think part of it was, flus, it was frustrating at times. You know, you're putting your secondary in harm's way when you can't generate a pass rush, or you just abandon it altogether. At times it felt like he abandoned it. And we were only getting pressure from Kenny Moore. Kenny Moore was, obviously Kwity Paye came along before, all these guys, played well at times, but it wasn't consistent.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't fear anyone. No, a team walking into Lucas Oil wasn't feared about, the pass rush that we want to generate. And that's something that's very important to any team. And to a Gus Bradley defense, he's got to figure out a way to get the most out of these young pass rushers that we have, because and I feel like that will be a focal point to help with this new identity. He's going to bring some intensity, and it starts up front. It really does. And I think I've heard whispers that possibly Rob Marinelli could possibly be a D-line coach. And he's a guy who's been in the league for a number of years. And he's a proven guy. And I think that's the effect, bringing in, a guy like Gus Bradley and the success he's had on the defensive side. What assistant coaches can he bring? And I think the minute you get one, it's going to be a domino effect. Now you're able to get other guys to say, okay, you know what? They're building a championship roster from a coaching standpoint, because obviously you feel like you have a championship roster from a player standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I think we're getting a little bit close to the end of this. Just real quick, will you be interested in doing a stream later this week to kind of pre-do the Super Bowl?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So everybody watching and listening, keep your ears and eyes open. We're going to have something going on probably later this week to discuss the Super Bowl. I just wanted to make sure that was out there. Is there any final words you want to talk about before we get out of here?
No, I mean, I'm excited for this upcoming game. The Bengals have shocked the world being in the position they are to play for the Super Bowl. And, there's a great storyline there. There's a star-studded storyline on the other side of the ball, or the other team with the Rams. So it's going to be interesting, but I'll keep all of that for the next episode. But you got it, man. You can take us home.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, DeQuell, for taking time out, sit here and discuss everything that we discussed today, man. It was a lot of great information. I appreciate your insights. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching this on YouTube, please don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe if you're not subscribed, and tag that notification bell so that you are notified next time I go live and or upload a video. And if you are listening to this wherever you listen to your audio podcast, make sure you download it and share where you got it, because it's people like you that help us grow and become a little bit more out there for other people, because the more people that download it, the more the other platforms will push us a little bit more. So we appreciate you so much. And until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen. That's DeQuell Jackson. This was Bleav in Colts, brought to you by BetOnline. And as usual, go Colts.